What's going on, my fellow Kino Lords? So, I just got out of a screening for a little film called Love Lies Bleeding, which is written and directed by Rose Glass, and starring Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien and Ed Harris and Dave Franco and Jenna Malone even. This is a pretty big cast, honestly. But Love Lies Bleeding is a film that I actually put in my top 10 most anticipated films of 2024 video. Mostly because, well, I'll say it's for two things. The first reason is because the other Rose Glass film that I saw before this was Saint Maud, and I think that was her directorial debut. I could be mistaken, but that's what I remember. And I actually really loved Saint Maud. I know that that was kind of a divisive film, but I don't know, I just really love the way that the film really explored the psychosis of the religious mindset when you're like really dug in a really fanatic level. And also how it kind of intertwines how loneliness and religion kind of come into play and work with each other. But anyway, yeah, Saint Maud to me was a great film. So I had my eye on this one. And then when I watched the trailer, this is the second reason, the trailer I thought was amazing. Like, rarely am I kind of blown away by a trailer to the point where I'm like, damn, I really, really want to see that. Love Lies Bleeding was one of those rare occasions. I just thought the trailer was great. So, you know, that being said, like, I really, really wanted to watch this film. And also, like, the whole, like, macho mommy thing was just so, like, I just feel like you don't really see that in film a lot. So I was, like, really curious to see where they went with this type of character. And overall, as a film coming out of it, I gotta say, this movie was fucking awesome. I really, really enjoyed this movie a lot. I don't know, there's just so much here that I was really impressed by and really admired. I mean, first and foremost, let's say the performances were great. Kristen Stewart is so good in this movie. She is super dedicated in this role, and all of the emotions that she has to convey in this film are super believable. And there's a lot here. Like, there's a lot here that she has to react to. There's a lot of emotions that, you know, she has to work herself up for, and she did incredible. I love her in this movie. I can't say off the top of my head if this is my favorite role from her, but it just might be. I think she was incredible. Katie O'Brien, she's the one that plays the bodybuilder macho woman in this film. She is fantastic as well. I've never seen her in anything besides this movie, and she absolutely killed it. She killed it. Again, like, just kind of like Kristen Stewart's character, she had to really bring it with her performance and the level of dedication that she brings to the role and to the character. And she's badass, man. She's like, every second she's on screen, you're just kind of like mesmerized by everything. And just really great, really great. I mean, everybody else, Ed Harris, as old as he is still not phoning in, excuse me. He is still bringing to life iconic type of characters. And this was a great character for him. Like, I just thought he fucking killed it. But anyway, I don't want to get too in the weeds when it comes to the performances. Overall, they're great. Dave Franco, also really great. For the time that he's in it, he's great. But the movie in general, like, I guess the first thing that I really loved about this movie is that it feels so unhinged and raw, and for the most part quite authentic. There is an element to it, which I'll dive a little bit more into later, that is, it's kind of surreal and it's kind of out there. But other than that, like, I think this film establishes like a grimy and gritty type of feel to it that feels very believable. Like, it just feels very, like, you don't question an ounce of it. Like, once this film presents itself for what it is, you are just like in this world, you're in this shitty part of America in the 80s, and it's just, you feel like this is one of those movies where you kind of feel like you have to take a shower afterwards, because it does kind of feel that sweaty, that dirty. But it's great. That just means Rose Glass did a great job at, like, you know, establishing that kind of aesthetic to her film, and she just fucking killed it. But yeah, and like, the huge thing going into this film that a lot of people are talking about is the lesbian element to it and the sexuality element to it. And I loved the way this film did this, because this is honestly like one of those films where, you know, when you're debating with somebody whether or not sex scenes are necessary in film, I feel like it's one of those films where you can like show as an example as to why they are necessary, and why they do a great job at like elevating certain elements of the tone of the character. Because to me, if it wasn't for the kind of graphic depictions of sexuality in this film, you don't feel the intimacy. You don't feel as personal and as intimate as you do, and you don't, I feel like you wouldn't have connected with these characters, and these characters wouldn't have connected as much as they did on screen if it wasn't for the way that this film depicted sexuality. I just feel like it is vital to kind of get the audience to understand the level of connection that they do have with each other. And I loved it. Like, I really loved it. I can see it, you know, it making some people uncomfortable because of how, like, you know, explicit it can be. So I wouldn't say like watch this with your grandmother, unless you're cool with your grandmother and y'all just don't give a shit. Then if you have that going on with grandma, sure, watch it with her, who cares? But overall, like, this is not like, you know, take your grandmother out to watch a movie kind of thing. But I love the way that it was represented in this film. I thought it was, it does a great job at amplifying the experience. It makes it, again, more intimate, more believable, and you really do feel the chemistry a lot more because of it. And I think it's great. And, you know, stylistically, this movie's awesome too. Like, stylistically, there's this just like bopping, like synthy 80s soundtrack to it that, you know, it makes sense why Rose Glass picked this type of sound to it, because it is a film that takes place in the 80s. From my understanding, it takes place in the 80s. Like, I could be mistaken, but that's the vibe I got from it. So it makes sense for her to choose this soundtrack, and it just works so well for it. And it reminded me, at least in some parts, it did remind me a lot of Refn's style of filmmaking. Not just because of that 80s synthwave soundtrack, but the use of lighting and the use of slow motion in certain areas, and just like even stylistically, the way that things are like chopped together, and the way that Rose Glass utilizes cinematography as a whole. It did remind me a little bit of Refn here and there. Overall, it's definitely Rose Glass's movie. There's just some parts that, in some ways, I feel like could have been inspired by his films. But yeah, so that was a really cool thing about it as well. And it also just functions as a great off the cuff crime thriller type of film. It's almost like two movies like coming together at once and creating this monstrous type of film. And like the crime thriller, the crime suspense element of it, I think, is awesome too. It's very like, you know, it's a very, I don't want to say it's a narrative heavy, but like, you know, there is like a story. It is heavy on story, and it does rely on story to progress the plot forward. And it is really engaging, and it's violent as hell. There's some really fucking violent moments in this movie that I loved. Like, I really, really dug. Really, I think the first very violent moment that we get is so fucking great. I loved it so much. And just a great like character moment. What a great like it was incredibly pivotal in the story, and the way it was shot, it was just like, I don't know, it just felt very like grandiose, and it was awesome. Yeah, really dug that too. Again, very violent movie as well. Yeah, really dug that. So yeah, I mean, like the crime suspense stuff, I think works really great too, honestly. So yeah, I mean, I love so much about this movie. There's not really much I dislike. Now, what I will say is that, as I mentioned earlier, there is a kind of surreal element to it that's kind of hinted at here and there, but you're kind of like thinking it's kind of like up in the air for a little bit. You don't really know what to make of this one element. But then in the third act, it goes all the way with it. It goes all the way with this very surreal and absolutely audacious and bold artistic risk in the finale of this film that I'm not sure that everybody's going to be on board with. I can see a lot of people kind of like rolling their eyes, or just kind of like whatever, like just like throwing like shit away and just walking out of the theater or something, because it's such a fucking like out there move, such a bold move, that I can see it turning some people off. It's definitely a risk. A risk is an understatement. But I dug it. I respected it too. And I think it's a very interpretable moment of the movie as well. I'm really interested to see what people think overall about not only the film in general, of course, but in terms of what they thought that ending meant, and what its place in the story, and its place in regarding the theme of the characters and the film overall. You know, whether they thought it was, you know, part of the reality of the movie. I'm really intrigued. I'm really excited to hear what people think about it. Personally, I dug the decision. I kind of read into it in my own way. And hell, I might even do like a scene analysis on it or something, because I thought it was a really creative and bold move at the end there. Did not see that shit coming. But I liked it. It's one of those things that helps separate it from, you know, your average crime suspense thriller. I mean, there's plenty of things that, you know, already kind of help separate it from your average crime suspense thriller, but that was like another thing that was just like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is its own thing. And again, it's gonna have some people rolling their eyes, but I think some people are gonna really admire the film even more because of it. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have that much more to say on it, honestly. I just really, really enjoyed it. Again, it's a very raw film. It's gritty as hell, and I love that about it. The performances are great. I think the use of sexuality in the film really helped the film out and made it a lot better. And yeah, like I just really, really dug it. So right now I'm gonna give the film a soft 9 out of 10. I know it seems pretty high. I mean, who knows? Maybe upon rewatch it could go down slightly, give it an 8 or something. But I don't know. Right now I'm kind of high off it, and I think it's really, really great. I think it's fantastic. So go out and check it out. Go out, check it out. Let me know what you guys think of it. It's a weird, grimy, steamy movie. But I hope everyone watching enjoys it. At least everybody that watches my review and goes out and sees it ends up enjoying it. But that's it, everybody. That's all I got to say about the film. If you really enjoy what I had to say about it, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.